Hello, y'all. How are you doing today? Welcome to Shattering Ceilings on the Arena SC. Today, we are joined by Senator Katrina Shealy. Senator Shealy is a senator from District 23, which covers Lexington County. She has been elected since 2012 in the Senate when she was the only woman serving in the Senate. For those of y'all who haven't been keeping up with political news, Senator Shealy unfortunately was defeated in her primary last month, now bringing the count of women in our Senate down to two. So we have Senator Shealy here today to talk to us about that election and the future of women and children in South Carolina, as she was a big advocate for women and children in the Senate in our state. And what does this mean for our state? So, Senator Shealy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And, it's a pleasure to get to talk about, what's really going to happen now. I don't think people realize the impact this is going to have on our state. When I first went into the Senate in 2012, there were no women, as you said. And so I did kind of shatter that ceiling for all those men in there. And it took them a while to realize I was there. And I had to decide what I was going to really do to make a difference in the South Carolina Senate. And there was no one there taking care of the issues for women and children and families and the elderly. And so somebody had to pick up that and run with it. And that's what I decided to do. And I've worked really hard on that. And, we changed DSS. We've worked on the Department of Juvenile Justice. Now, there's some programs that take a little longer, and some programs are never going to be perfect because it's the issues you're dealing with. But we've made a lot of positive changes. I mean, children were dying in DSS, like monthly when I came into the Senate, and we've changed things so much, to the better. Director Leach is just, doing great things at DSS, and it's been so great to see the things that we've brought forward, the human trafficking issue and working on those issues and the domestic violence issues. And I mean, I passed 47 pieces of legislation. Well, 49, I'm sorry. We passed two just the last week of session, but 49 pieces of good, solid legislation for families and children since I've been in the Senate. And I don't think anybody else has ever done that. Not that many in that short time for legislation with substance. And now there's no one there that's going to pick that up and run with it, because what happens is we've gotten rid of all the Republican women in the Senate. Now, I'm not saying that Margie Bright Matthews, I love her, and she's a Democrat, and she's going to work hard. And Tamika Isaac Devine, she's going to be there, and she's going to work hard. But when you have no one in the majority party that's going to work, that help you bring your issues forward, and we're almost at a supermajority, then no one's going to work on those issues. And I can tell you, those men in there, there's a lot of good men in there, but they're not going to work on those issues. That's not what's forefront in their mind. And I worry about that.
Yeah, I worry about that too. And to be completely honest, obviously, we are of different political parties. I don't agree with you on all policy issues, but to be fair, I don't necessarily agree with every Dem on every policy issue either. But you have to go back to your original, your previous point. You've been a fighter for women and children, and some could say that that cost you your election being that fighter. So why were you willing to disagree with your party when it came to these issues and fight for these issues?
Well, one of the things I always said is I would not vote on an issue just to save an election. I'm not running for the next election. And a lot of people in that chamber, now they can agree with me or not, but I know I'm telling the truth, voted the way they did on the abortion bill because they were worried about the next election. Because I know the heart of some of those men who have teenage girls or young girls in their family, and they felt the same way that a lot of us women did. but they were not willing to risk the next election on it. I was not willing to give up my stand, my conscience for an election. It wasn't worth it. And I always said that, I was going to vote my conscience regardless of the next election. And I don't want to see a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old get pregnant and be forced to carry a child just because and I don't want to say it that way because somebody will say I'm wrong, but I will say it because a group of white men, and the Republican Party is full of white older men. We have one African American man in the Republican Party, but because they say that if you get pregnant, it's your fault or it's God's will, and you should have to carry that baby to term. If a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old is raped, that's not God's will. I do not believe that God will for some, evil man to come rape a 10 or 12-year-old and that she be forced to ruin her life and maybe never be able to have children again with someone she loves and, have tear up her reproductive organs just to have that child, and do I believe you should wait till, the time the baby's born to have an abortion? No, I offered a very reasonable amendment, 12 weeks, with the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother, and fatal fetal anomaly. They want people to carry these babies if they know they're dead inside of them till the last, till they know their term's over. Now, there's something, wrong with that. You can cause the mother to have health issues, or if the mother does have an abortion, they want to be allowed to give her, take her to court, charge her with a felony, up to the point of even giving her the death penalty for that. I can't buy into that. Now, that bill never made it to the Senate. That's still over in the House. And, now they have to start a new year. So all that'll start over again. But if I were a betting woman, I would bet you that that's going to come back up this session because the Senate has enough people to pass it if they're not man enough to stand up for what they really believe.
And talking about what they really believe, what I've noticed in these primaries, because you weren't the only person who unfortunately lost your primary. You had two other Republican women colleagues that lost theirs too, to far right men. And so it seems that Republican voters are moving further and further right. Is this really, and I asked this question of some other friends who really couldn't answer it for me. So I'm asking you as a Republican, is this really the state and country that Republican voters want? Do they know who they're voting for? And do they really want a state and country that's this restrictive? Or do you think they don't know who they're voting for? What's going on?
I think they don't know who they're voting for. Number one, I think if they would look into what they're voting for, I've thought about this 1,000 times, why would you vote out someone who's done so much for the people, for real people? I vote for, lower taxes. I vote for, fixing the roads, all these things that people want. But I also vote for the human side. I vote for children and families, but you voted in, and in my case, and this is not a personal thing because I don't know my opponent personally, but you would vote in another trial lawyer who doesn't want to change the way our judicial system is. And, more people are getting out of jail, more people are going to jail for the wrong thing and getting out for why they should be there. But that's who you vote in, and you really know nothing about them. So, there's that issue. On the issue of Senator Sand, you voted in somebody with a terrible history of domestic violence, of, other issues. I think Senator Sand, she only lost by 39 votes, I think. But she didn't even call for a recall because, we're just ready to throw our hands up and say, if this is what the people of South Carolina really want, then why, let them find out. But it's a sad day when the country, if you look at our country as a whole, I mean, and I'm not taking sides on either side. Is this the best we have to offer for our country? You know, on either side, is this all we've got? Because Donald Trump is more liberal than me on abortion. He wants 15 weeks with all the exceptions. Are they going to put up billboards that says Donald Trump is a baby killer? I doubt that, but they had them all over the Lexington County that Katrina Shealy is a baby killer. Katrina Shealy is not pro-life. I mean, I was ready to throw up my hands too, because I don't want my grandchildren reading ridiculous things like that after I've saved so many children in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. You know, when Gerald Malloy, Senator Malloy, names you Senator for the Children, you don't want your grandchildren reading that you're a baby killer. So, exactly. You know, sometimes it's time to leave.
And then y'all, if y'all haven't had time to go to Senator Shealy's State House profile, I really recommend, I'm bringing it up now, and I want to talk about the fact that she is an award-winning senator here. I mean, she has been named Outstanding Female Statesman Award for Lexington County Republican Party, the Republican Party Terry Haskins Award, Federation of Republican Women 2013 Woman of the Year, Conservationist of the Year. I mean, y'all, there's so many awards that she has been given because of her work in the Senate. So it is, you're right. It's amazing that of all the work that you've done, you have done the real work for the citizens of Lexington County and for the state, because the reality is, y'all, we are represented by one senator. I have one senator who represents me, but I also understand that all the women that were in the Senate represent my needs too, even if they don't represent my county, because they are the voices there that are fighting for people like me who may not be represented by somebody else. And so you were fighting not just for Lexington County, but for the state. And your laundry list of awards here show that people were grateful for it. And then here comes someone, you know, without the political experience that you have, but far right leaning, and they can just put billboards up, you know, talking about these things about you, instead of forgetting that, you know, to me, I think to be truly pro-life is to be pro-life once the baby is born. And I believe that the legislation that you advocated for was pro-life legislation to make sure that these children that are here and breathing actually have rights and have processes and services that can take care of them once they're born. And so it scares me that someone like you could be elected out, and then we have somebody like your opponent and the opponent of the other two that could be elected in. And so I worry about the future of our state. I worry about the future of our country. I've just been doing a deep dive into Project 2025, and I know that the congresswoman from the 1st Congressional District mentioned that, about abortion bans here in South Carolina, that people can just go to another state. Well, the reality is, y'all, if y'all haven't read Project 2025, I encourage you to, because it does take away a lot of the programs, the state Connect programs for women and children, and it's for a total 100% abortion ban nationwide. I mean, what are your thoughts about that direction? And what can we do besides vote? Obviously, voting is important. Is there anything else that we can do to counteract these kind of policies?
I think Project 2025, it has to be Project Freedom Caucus 2025, because I can't imagine who else came up with that. I've seen that, you know, Donald Trump's shying away from it, and I'm certain that Biden would never, you know, sign anything like that. But I can't imagine, you know, these are the same people that, you know, they jump on freedom. You know, we don't want to wear masks. Don't tell us to wear masks. We don't want to get COVID shots. Don't tell us to get COVID shots. We want to carry a gun out in the open. We're going to do that. But we want our women to do what we say. I mean, what year is this? Is this 1920? Is this 1890? What year are we? Are we going to change the name of the country to Gilead? Or, you know, I did watch Handmaid's Tale. But that's what I feel like. I mean, I feel like women are becoming property. And, they no longer want us in the legislature because we actually act like we have common sense. There's some, balance there. So, if we take us out, then they can pass things like Project 2025, which if we don't wake up and do something about this now, a nationwide abortion ban, what are women thinking? Why would we even vote for people that think that? I mean, women are going to have to stand up and take some action. Somebody needs to grab some leadership here, and let's stand up nationwide and say no. I mean, we cannot have that. And we have to vote out our congressmen, our United States senators, whoever believes that that's a good idea, they have to go. Because we're going to become chattel to the men of the world, and we're just, who are we anymore?
I agree with you. I mean, it's very scary, the prospect of where women's rights are moving. And y'all, this isn't an effort to elevate women above men. This just says that we should have equal rights as our male colleagues have. And the fact that there are people that are talking about women shouldn't even have the right to vote, women shouldn't be outside the home working. I mean, these are not just casual conversations that are happening. These are leaders that are having these conversations. And it's scarier when you think about the fact that there aren't women that will be in leadership in the Senate and even in the House. I think the number of women look like it may be decreasing.
Dropped.
And so I just had Connie Monk on a couple of episodes ago to talk in an interview about her leadership in Nevada. Nevada actually was one of the first states in the nation to have a majority women's legislature. And because they had a majority women's legislature, they were actually able to address women and family issues. And what I always say, y'all, is that women's issues are family issues. Family issues are community issues. When women do well, communities do well. And also, what the statistics show, and I don't believe that we should have women in office just to have women in office. Well,
No.
yes, I do. I do believe that we should
We
have
know
women in
what we
office.
need good women in office.
We need good women in office, yes. In the sense that we deserve representation, we should have women in office. But also, the studies show that women collaborate more and get more things done. Even women across the aisle tend to collaborate more and get more bills passed. And so if y'all want legislation passed to make this state a better state, you have to have the voices of women at the table also. And the fact that we are moving towards a General Assembly that will have only a handful of women there's a saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, meaning women will be on the menu. And there are so many areas where we can improve in the state. And I say this as someone who loves South Carolina. I am a South Carolinian, born and raised. I have made a conscious decision to stay here and work to make this state a better state. And when you love something, you want it to do better. And I want South Carolina to do better, but we will never be able to pass laws to actually make this state a better state without women at the table.
The problem is, so women vote against women. And we've got to change that. I mean, because women have 51% of the vote. Either we're not getting out to vote or we're voting against women. Everybody I talk to, oh, we're voting for you. We're doing this. We're doing that. Well, did you just not get out and vote, or what happened? Because, I mean, in the runoff, it was terrible. Now, only 5% of the people voted in the runoff. How bad is that? But, I could tell that day that things just weren't right. I mean, it was something wrong that day in the air. I felt it coming. But, we as women, and there's men out there that support us. Now, I'm not pushing those guys off, because there are men that support women in politics, but we have to do something now before it's too late. We were progressing so much with equal pay and equal rights and equal, I worked hard with the disability organization to get equal pay for disabled people. I'm not supposed to say it like that. I mean, there's a correct way to say that, and I didn't say it right. But Kimberly will forgive me. I just want everybody to be treated equally, and I've worked really hard the last 12 years to make that happen. And here we go, just throwing that out the window. And, I'm going to do something. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do something about it.
And that was my next question. So, with the awards that you have, the political history that you have, what's the future hold for Senator Katrina Shealy?
I'm making that decision now. I'm waiting for somebody, I've had a couple of people talk to me about doing things, and I've worked on children's issues and family issues and women's issues. And I've also worked on issues with senior citizens and Alzheimer's. My husband's has Alzheimer's, and so I've worked on issues with that. So there's so many options out there. What do I want to do? I don't know yet.
Right.
It's only been it's been 2 weeks since runoff, but I'm not going to sit still because that's not in my DNA to sit still. I'm a lot younger than my age is. So I'm gonna just keep working. I just have to find which thing I'm gonna work on. But I'm not gonna let the women down. I'm gonna work somehow. I'm gonna go. I signed up to be on the speakers bureau, so I'm gonna go and try and talk women into running for office and working hard to not let our, we can't let this die. I mean, we're going backwards.
We are definitely going backwards, and it's very scary. And I'm a true believer in democracy, and I believe that part of that democracy means diversity of thought. I don't think that we need everybody to be in the same thought pattern. I think when we have diversity of thought, we can come to we can agree, and we can find some area to agree in that is better for all of us moving forward. And it appears that in our General Assembly that we will not have that diversity of thought, or we will not have the power that we need to be able to have bills that really speak to all South Carolinians and will progress our issues forward. And y'all, I truly believe that there are areas where we can agree to disagree on. There are some fundamental rights that I think that I don't compromise on, but I think there are areas where we can agree to disagree, and I think that's healthy to have disagreement, because when you truly have that friction of disagreement, that's where the beauty comes out in the end, and you find a space, or you find a policy or a bill that truly works to progress the state forward and make this truly a wonderful state to live in. So, I think we need voices like Senator Katrina Shealy, at the table to really help push us forward. And it's very sad to me that we're losing your voice in that way. But I am hopeful that you will not, as you just said, step back from public service, because we need voices like yours at the table, especially in a state like South Carolina.
Well, the Senate was a great microphone. I had the opportunity to be a microphone and to pass legislation to help those people. I hope I'm going to find me a microphone over there to help pass legislation. I'm not quite sure who that's going to be yet, but I'm going to look for him. I told my two sister senators that are left, I said, I'll feed it to you, and then I'll talk to the people on the other side. And I've got, lots of friends in there that, still love me and will help me get legislation passed if it's the right thing. So, I still want to help women and children. And, the kids at DJJ, God, my heart is out there, so much. I did that before I was a senator. I've been volunteering out there, God, 20 years. And so there's so many things I want to do. I wish I was 10 people, but I'm not. So I gotta decide sometime, but not now.
What I always tell people, because I have my colleagues do the same thing. They think they try to do 1,000 projects because like, there's so much work to do, and I'm like, y'all, you can only do your little piece of the pie, and trust that there are other people that are taking on their pieces of the pie. You focus on doing your piece of the pie well, and the other pieces will come together. So I believe that you will find your niche moving forward. Speaking of your niche, I want to switch to some lighthearted questions. I feel like we've been a little heavy. There's a question I like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast about who are their people or who do they find community with. This can be lighthearted or it can be deep. I like to say that my people are serial plant killers, but I also think that my people are people that are for women's rights, and for the rights of all. That they really are for the rights of all. I think these are people that I find community with. Who are your people or who do you find community with, especially in a time like we're living in now?
Oh my. I have so many friends, that, and when I need to talk to somebody, this will be crazy. I don't really talk to people a lot. I process things in my head, and okay, you want to laugh, right? You want me to be like, I go sit in the pasture and talk to my donkeys because they don't talk back. But I have 10 and
Oh
they don't
wow.
talk back to me. But I met a lot of my friends are lobbyists who listen to me, and we're friends. It's not about lobbying issues. And
Right.
my mom died when I was young. My
Mhm.
best friend is probably my daughter. We bounce things off of each other. She's getting ready to build a house next door, and so she can take care of her old mama. And so we talk a lot, but I don't. My best friend in the whole wide world died a couple years ago, and we've been friends since fourth grade. And I've found it hard to make really good friends since then because I'm afraid I'm going to lose them. But I've got a group of 7 of us that I've been since middle school, since elementary school, and in fact we're going to meet Thursday night. But I don't share a lot. I keep a lot inside, and you know, maybe I should get it out.
Yeah, I definitely
I'm a
understand that.
comedian. I'm a comedian. I like to make jokes about everything, but maybe I'll be a stand-up comedian. Maybe that's my next profession. Yeah, I like Leanne Morgan. You ever listen to her?
I have it.
Oh, she is hilarious. She's like real life Arkansas comedy, and she talks about her kids and her mother-in-law, and maybe that's what I'll do.
Yes. Well, I definitely think, even though you say, it sounds like you do have some community of friends, and I do think that for our women listeners, finding community, y'all, especially at a time like now, can be difficult, but I think it's important. Even if you don't divulge all of your inner thoughts to them, just being in community with people who get you and understand you, like I say, especially in the divisiveness that we have going on, is hard, but it's important to find that community. Who are some women who inspire you to continue this fight?
Well, I think my sister senators, we wanted to stay together. Um we decided, we were going to fight the abortion issue together. And it wasn't like we decided none of us agree on how it should be. None of us agree on how what the time should be or anything. We just decided we didn't want what they wanted, and that we weren't going to let them have 0 abortions at, you know, 0 time and 0 uh, exceptions. So, in fact, we're going to the Bahamas together in a couple of weeks. So,
Yeah.
we stuck together, and that the fact that we were awarded for that, I think probably that's the reason one of the things they used against me is the fact that I won the JFK Profile and Courage Award. That was on every mail piece that my opposition used. I got that Democrat award. So my sister senators, we've stood by each other. I have some very good friends that were in the Republican Party with me that think the Republican Party's gone mad too. So, we stay together and, talk. So, they've meant a lot to me. Like I tell you, my mom died when I was 15. So I haven't had that. I've got a sister-in-law that I talk to a lot, and people like that. My church family, I love my church organist. I talk to him a lot, and if he hears this, he'll love that. He'll get a grip kick out of that. He's a diehard Democrat, so we give each other a hard time. He said I was the only Republican he'd ever vote for, but he doesn't live in my district. And, just people like that I can laugh and cut up with.
Yeah.
I got, like I said, I got some lobbyist friends that they've stood by me and made me keep going, even when, people were trying to get me to vote the other way and say, this is going to ruin your political career. And, they stood with me.
And I think you said something that really stood out to me. The fact that with the sister senators, while y'all didn't agree on the details necessarily of what an abortion ban looks like, y'all agreed that we shouldn't have a total abortion ban. And so y'all
Right.
found some area of commonality here. And even though y'all had differences of how this should look, you were able to bond together for a common goal. And so I think that's what's missing right now, is the sense that we have a common goal to serve people. We may differ on what the details look like, and we can hammer that out, but we need to find the commonality so that we can at least move forward.
And that's right on everything. That's the problem we have in so many situations now, is people won't work together to just find a way to come together. There are people in the legislature or in life that they won't settle for a half a loaf of bread. If they can't have the whole loaf, they would let their children starve instead of taking the half a loaf. And I see that so much in the far right or the far left, whichever way it is. If you can't have it all, you won't take any. And you'd seriously let your child starve to death if you couldn't get everything you wanted. I mean, we've been criticized for not voting for exactly the way people wanted a bill. When we voted the only way the bill was there to vote for it. So we voted that way. Well, you didn't vote for the way we wanted it. Well, it wasn't even an option. And that's the way the far right or the real far left does, is if you don't do what they say, well, that's not why they sent me there. Because, a senator has 120,000 constituents. I can tell you they don't all agree. So you have to try and vote for everybody. And it's just you can't make a logical decision with people, with 120,000 people. So you have to do what you think's right, and they sent me there to do what my conscience told me to do.
Well, thank you for following your conscience, and voting in a way that you thought was best for your constituents and not necessarily best for your political career. I know that is a hard decision, or could be a hard decision to make. It sounds like some people voted, went the opposite direction, but I think putting the citizens first is what's important, and why you were sent to the Senate. So thank you for that, and making those hard decisions. What is one piece of advice you would like to give our women listeners?
Don't give up on a political career, the opportunity. We need you. I would tell you to get involved, whether it's at the local level or just making sure you go vote. Get involved in the PTA, get involved in the school board, get involved in the county council, get involved with, the House of Representatives, the Senate. If you want to be president, by God, go try and do that. We need some people running for that. We need women's voices. And I know what's happened to just the 3 Republican women senators. That would scare somebody to death. If you're thinking about running for office and you think your kids are going to see up on a billboard, your mama, your kids are going to see, my mama's a baby killer. Who's going to want to do that? Or some of the mail pieces I got, they would who wants their children to see that? But you have to get a thick skin. Maybe hide the mail from your kids. But there's a lot of things that we need you for. So don't be scared to run. There are women like me, and Senator Sin, and Senator Gutterson, and Senator Bright Matthews, and Senator McLeod, and Senator Isaac Devine that will stand behind you, because we need women's voices. And, if I can help anybody, I would help them. Just to say that we have women out there that want to do it. But for God's sakes, at least look at the women candidate. See what they stand for. And you might not agree with somebody on everything, because if you do, somebody's probably telling a lie. I mean, if somebody tells you that whatever you say, they say, yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. they're not telling you the truth, because nobody agrees on everything. So look at the truth. And young women, please get involved. Get involved with something. And not, if politics isn't for everybody, but something in your community is worth getting involved with. Think about your children. Think about your little girls. Think about even your little boys growing up, and they're going to find some little girl and fall in love with them. Think about those, think about your children.
And I think that's the quote that service is the rent that you pay here on earth. And so service is important, y'all, and you don't have to do it politically. I think politics is a great way to get involved. Obviously, I'm in politics, but it doesn't have to be politics, or it doesn't have to be partisan politics that you get involved in. There's so much you can do for your community. But y'all, there is such a great need right now to have your voices at the table, just like Senator Shealy just said. We need y'all involved, especially now. So if politics isn't your vibe, that's okay. There are community organizations. There's so many things that you can do to give back to this community and to try to make South Carolina truly the best state in the union. So I encourage y'all to get involved. And if politics is where you want to get involved, you just heard out of Senator Katrina Shealy's mouth herself that there are some women senators around this state who will be willing to talk to you and hopefully help you figure out what that looks like, because we absolutely need more women in Columbia fighting for the women in South Carolina. So, Senator Shealy, do you have any parting words?
I do have another pitch I'd like to. We need foster parents. Mm-hmm. We need adopted parents. We need volunteers at DJJ. We need, I got a lot of needs. I volunteer for all these things. Y'all need to think about these things. Think about ways you can help children. Human trafficking. If you see something that looks funny, report it. Let's see. If somebody looks depressed or something, talk to them. Suicide prevention is, another way you can help. You just Google it. There are so many ways you can help people in South Carolina. I've been chairman of all these committees, so you can find a way to help somebody. Make yourself feel like you've accomplished something. You can sit at home and do it from your computer. If you don't want to get out in the heat, there are ways to find something to do for people. And so just do it, and you'll feel so rewarded inside. I don't regret being a senator, but I don't regret, not being one either, because there's so many other things I have to give back to the state.
Wonderful. Well, Senator Shealy, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all that you have done for the citizens of South Carolina, particularly for the women and children. And thank you for being on the podcast today. We really do appreciate you taking time out to share with our listeners your experience and just to really make them aware of what's going on here in South Carolina.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And y'all, the spiel. Go ahead and subscribe to the Arena SC. If you like the content that you're hearing today and you want more of it, subscribe. And we will catch you on the next Shattering Ceilings. Thank you.